Let's get started. I'd like to kind of like just say I really would just like to say thank you and welcome, right? And what you see here is really typically of what's been happening over the last couple of years, right? Is that our participation in every event has dropped by like 50%. There's no question about it. But I have to say thank you to all our corporate members and our sponsors because they've stuck with us through thick and thin. They've supported us. And because of them, we're able to really kind of like continue moving our mission forward, right? And so, you know, as we think about creating economic value for our communities, you know, we're thinking downstream to generations. So I just want to say thank you to our corporate members that are here, that are online. I want to thank all the MBs for participating and taking advantage of the services that we do provide. So thank you very much. So here's what's going to happen is we're just going to say a few thank you. We're going to call out our sponsors. Then we'll have Angela Battle, our board chairperson, come and say welcome to everybody and introduce the board of directors. And then we'll have Shahzad, who leads the Minority Business Input Committee, also come and provide a welcome and then introduce the MBIC chairpersons. And then we're going to go into what we've done in 2021. Very highlight, you know, I was going through my calendar starting January 1st, and there's a lot of things that are in there, but we're just going to highlight some things. And then we're going to go into like 2022 activities, right? So again, this has been a tough year for everybody. So we don't have every detail ironed out about what we're doing in 2022, but we know what we're doing. So we don't have the details, but we're going to go over some highlights about what it is that we have planned. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to T-Mobile. T-Mobile took on a leadership role in terms of being our title sponsor a couple of years ago. And so they continue to lead and to be our annual title sponsor. They're a sponsor of today's event. And they continue to lead our organization. So thank you. Chi Pak is on our board of directors as well. So Chi, are you online? Okay. Stacy, so Stacy from T-Mobile is right here. So feel free to talk to her whenever you need to have a chance. Also supporting today's event was Coca-Cola. George, I've known for a long time, and when he moved from the Seattle Chamber, he went to Coca-Cola, and he handles legislative affairs, and so he provided some sponsorship for today's event as well. Richard Chacon from Union Bank is underwriting the board of directors. We have a board of directors meeting after this, and he's underwriting the luncheon for today's event. Now, as we look at our annual sponsors, this is who we work with on a day-to-day basis: Boeing, Microsoft, Mike Nakamura, Nike, Starbucks, Summit Group, T-Mobile, TDW, the Trio Group, Union Bank, Wong Fleming, and Worldwide Technology. Year after year, consistently, these sponsors are coming and participating with us, and they're funding our organization. From a gold perspective, Earl Overstreet is online with GMI. From a silver perspective, Alaska Airlines, Vanessa is online with us from AT&T and Costco. The bronze sponsors, Bank of America, Delta Airlines, LSI NextGen, Petrocard, Promo Shop, Matt Mason is online, Rhodes International, Smart Sheets, and Vulcan. And Rich, I don't believe Richard could make today's session. And then our emerging sponsors, Raul is with Elion, LDC, and RLA. So thank you to our sponsors. Now, I'm not going to go through the list of our corporate members, but what you see here is a list of all of our corporate members. But of interest to us is that we were able to recruit the Zillow group, which is really, really good. Now, again, it goes with relations, right? And so Brian White used to be the Chief Procurement Officer at REI. So he moved to Zillow, And a couple of years later, we started having conversations, and they became a member with us this past year, within 2021. The other organization that actually came back is Nordstrom. As we all know, Nordstrom kind of had some difficulties, in previous years, so they finally kind of like came back, and this year they came back as a national member as well, right? So we're happy to have them back, happy to have Zillow Group along with everybody else. Now, as we look at agencies and nonprofits, of note is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It took us several months to recruit them. We had many conversations. They had conversations at the national level, but we finally were able to secure their membership. We're in conversations right now with the Melinda Gates, not the Melinda Gates, the Melinda French organization. So tomorrow we have a meeting, and we're probably going to be able to bring them on as a nonprofit member as well. And we're also in conversations with Russell Investments right now. And I know that they've already been budgeted to become members, so we're just waiting for them to give us the go-ahead. So Russell Investments will join us soon. Melinda French's organization will join us soon. At this time, I'd like to invite Angela to come up and introduce herself, welcome everybody, and introduce the board of directors. Just put right there.
Thank you. Good morning.
Oh, let me.
Instead of just shoulders and heads, I like to see everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come down or over or up to be here in person. And then thank you to those of you online. We appreciate the time. I am your board chairperson, and I'd like to thank Fernando and his team for allowing me to lean on you guys a lot. This is the first time I've done this, so really green at it. So, but yeah, I'm the board chairperson. I'm with Selling Construction. Also on the board is Carl Gibson with AT&T. We also have Shazad Quandri, with Wong Fleming, also the MBECI chairperson. We have Dee Arnold with Worldwide Technology. We also have our fearless leader, Fernando. Chipak with T-Mobile. We have Richard Cardone with Vulcan. Richard, Chacon, thank you. I like to say that properly. With MUFG Union Bank. Clayton Judge with Nike. Vlad Papel with Intel Corporation. And Josh Canaday with Microsoft. So again, thank you guys for being here. And Shazad, would you like to come up? I put an N in your mouth.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. It's great to see some old faces and old friends and a lot of new individuals. We're excited to have you here. The last 2 years have been pretty challenging. I'm the MBIC chair, and I have a really robust team that supports the council. We have Dee Arnold. I think Dee's here from Worldwide Technology. Pedro Castro, Daryl Russell, Nelson Ranieri, Arce Sankara, and Curtis Thornhill. As you see, we have a few blanks at the bottom, which means we are recruiting. So if any one of you is interested in joining, please reach out to me or Fernando or any one of the team members. Again, thank you so much, and hopefully the year to come is going to be a much better one. Thanks.
Thank you, Shazad. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Shazad. Yes. So can we take that offline just to make sure that you can have a conversation with them? But just to let everybody know that the input committee represents the MBEs on the board of directors, and so there's activities that they run. So, but you can have one-off conversation with Shazad just to make sure that we stay on track with what we're doing. Okay, so as we look at our performance on an annual basis, these are 5 key metrics that we follow year after year: financial, operational, marketing, customer service, learning, and development performance. So these are the kind of like the 5 key measurements that we look at continuously to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, that we're supporting our MBEs, that we're supporting our corporate members, and that we're supporting our community. So as we look at the year-to-date financials, what you'll see is that year-to-date through November, we're performing at about 105% of planned budget. Now, I will mention this, is that when we planned this year's budget, we took a step. Michael, how are you? Where's the Magadons? Like, there you go. So when we planned this year's budget, we had to take a step back and plan based on 2019 numbers. We had to look 2019, 2018, because 2020 was such an anomaly for us that it was such a big year in terms of revenue loss that it just didn't make sense for us to really budget against that year, right? So 2020 performed way less than 2019. So it didn't make sense for us to take 2020 as our baseline. As a result of that, I think it was a very, very smart decision that the board accepted the recommendations of going up against 2019, 2018. So you see, we're pretty close in terms of numbers, right? So at 105% of revenue, 88% of expenses. And we all know that expenses have gone up significantly. So what this also says is that our team is very efficient. But inside of that also, it says, are we leaving anything on the table? And so that means that are we kind of like not really delivering the value that we need to deliver? So that's the question that we continuously ask ourselves. We're in the process of hiring another person right now, and that is going to be important for us because it's actually an analyst position. So that's what we're looking at right now. So as we look at our net income, we're at about 200% of net planned of net income, right? Now, year end, the last 3 months of the year for us are all expense. We don't hardly generate any revenue. We collect small amounts of revenue, but the last quarter for us is always an expense quarter. So by the time that we get done with the year, we're going to hit about 108% of budget, about 90% of planned expenses, and we're still going to stay at about a 200% net income. So I think that for the year, it makes sense that when we budgeted against 2019, 2018, you can see where there's a level, it's all leveled out. Had we gone with 2020, those numbers would be skyrocketing because we were about $400,000 short of planned in 2020. And that's how significant COVID hit us, because the first 6 months of 2020 were just ugly. I know that a lot of you kind of feel and felt the same losses, so we're just sharing this with you. Now, as we look at the operational aspect of it, Carla Malacon took over as manager of operations on January 1st, and she wears many, many hats. She's our HR person, she's our accounting person, she's our operational person, she does event planning, she does everything, right? I mean, there's nothing in the office that Carla does not have her finger on. And for me, it's really, really great to have someone like that, because I can get a lot of other stuff done that typically, that years ago I was doing. And so I really appreciate Carla coming on. So as the manager of operations, we've done great things. She just brought us into compliance with the MSDC, which we were, but there were a couple of glitches throughout the year, right? Expense management in times of increasing costs and inflation. Highest inflation rate in 13 years at 6.2%. I mean, that's a huge inflationary number. We all know the constraints with supply chain, and we know how that's impacting the cost of things, right? The cost of goods sold. So when you add the inflationary rate and the cost of goods, cost of services going up, it's crazy, and we have to make sure that we're containing that. So as you looked at the slides beforehand, you see where we're managing the expenses pretty well. And that's because the team here, they work double time, you guys. You know, there's no doubt about it. They work double time. And everybody rolls up their sleeves. We're cross-functional, and nobody is shy about working. So you see that in this time when things are skyrocketing in terms of cost, we're still managing all of our costs. Our audit, one of the key metrics for us is how do we measure financially with an external auditor coming in and looking at our finances. And I'm very, very pleased to say that we've got great financial audit for the last several years. We give them everything that they need. They run the report, and there's not one area where I think that we have significant issues, right? Are we missing some invoice register here? Yes, probably, you know, but it's nothing that measures against any sort of mismanagement of funds. All the management of funds are in accordance with GAAP. All the accounting principles and practices are in accordance with GAAP. So we have a very, very strong accounting piece. Now, even though Carla manages our accounting, we have a staff accountant. And that's who we work with, who is one of our corporate members, Branch Richards. The auditor is an external person because we can't have our accountant doing our audit. So we're very, very clear about that. And then the NMSDC compliance. There's so many requirements that we as an affiliate of the NMSDC have to meet every day or every quarter. And so it's time consuming. And the way that Carla has set it up, it's now kind of like, let's plug and play. Let's plug and play. It's now we just know what we need, when we need it, where we get it from. And some of the details I'll have to write or rewrite or whatever, but the heavy lifting is already done by Carla, the operations manager. As we look at marketing, you'll see where this year we started kind of like really focusing on all our ethnic groups in across the country, right? Because I was driving to work one day and I'm thinking, why are we celebrating these months? That we got African American Black Month, Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. You know, why are we not celebrating these months? And it was interesting because it was Hispanic Heritage Month, and I called the NMSDC up in New York and I said, hey, are you guys like, you know, advertising? Are you supporting Hispanic Heritage Month? They said, oh yeah, we're gonna put it out on Monday. I said, oh, okay, got it. So they immediately put something out, but it was like we had to remind them that they have to do something like that, and now they're on board, right? So we're really focused on making sure that we're acknowledging every ethnicity group, every diverse group that we support. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that Hanifa is our marketing person. One of the things that I started doing is Hanifa started taking some responsibilities for some of the corporate members, and that's really kind of important for us to do. Is as you set up our account management structure, it's important for Hanifa to start taking on some of the corporate membership relationships. It's important for Huda to start taking on these MBE relationships, right? Because everything cannot funnel through one person. And so if all of us are working together, we can work together and get better results, get more results. So I really like for example, Kate, who's online from McKinstry, worked directly with Hanifa on an event that they just launched a couple of weeks ago. So it's that type of responsibilities that we're expanding. I mentioned the diversity calendar, race and social justice stand. You know, we really took a stand against hate, Asian hate. We took a stand when that became a significant issue earlier this year. Last year, we took the position that we were supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. So we've taken these stands from a social perspective where it's our obligation. If we don't take a stand as an organization, then we're complicit with whatever's happening. And that's a position that we took. If we say nothing, we're condoning and we're approving. If we say something, then we're taking a position. And I wrote a paper earlier this year. It's called White Privilege. You know it when you see it. And you know, it. Some people probably won't like it. Probably some people didn't like it, but that's okay. That's a position that it wasn't an attack on any one individual. It wasn't an attack on anybody, but it was an attack on the institution that exists, right? And so, so we as an organization, even though we're focused on business, we're committed to social justice, racial justice, and we take that stand. And Hanifa has helped us put that together. Well, the year before, Carla was marketing, so she helped us when we did the Black Lives Matter support. So that's important. Customer service. We went to the customer, right? We weren't waiting for everybody to come to us. We actually went to where the customer is. And just like to solve problems, you have to go to where the problem is. And that's where I think we really kind of like focused. So we provided a lot of guidance to corporate members and peer organizations on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Organizations that they knew that they had to take a position, but they didn't know how to really begin the process. So we offered hours and hours and hours of consulting. Not that we made any money, because we didn't, but it was because this movement is greater than what we can do. And some decided, like some of the corporate members decided, well, you know what, we're going to join your organization. Others decided that they're going to approach racial and social justice by giving to other organizations that help other organizations, other businesses, right? So, or other communities, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's developing small businesses. But they took a position, and that position was a result of a lot of the consulting time that we spent with them. I don't know how many hours we spent conversing with corporate members, but they made decisions. And some of them made decisions like, we have to take a step back because we really don't know what we're doing. And we didn't realize that it's going to take time for us to really kind of move the needle. And so our recommendation to them is like, it's 16 to 24 months for you to really begin to move the needle. I know you want to move fast, but if you move too fast, you're going to miss a whole lot of stuff. We did some executive summits, great conversations. My commitment at Executive Summit 2 was that I was going to have a white paper designed and written by today's event. Some things got in the way, so I didn't finish writing the white paper, but we'll have a little bit more discussion on that. And these executive summits are where our corporate supplier diversity leaders and our MBEs come together and we hash out problems. One of the biggest problems that we've identified is that the depth of relationships is a big issue. Because if I leave, then who do you have a relationship with, right? If Angela leaves, who do we have a relationship with? So we have to really kind of work at building multiple level, multi-tiered relationships. That was one of the biggest issues that both the corporations said, well, if Earl Overstreet leaves, who do I talk to at GMI? And vice versa, if Stacy leaves, who does Earl speak to at T-Mobile, right? So we've got to kind of work through some of those things. But those executive summits, which we will continue again in 2022, and we will complete, we have all the information that we collected from those 2 summits. So we will write that white paper, we will release it. I can't tell you exactly when, but we will release it. Virtual and live events. Like I said, right now, I love the fact that we're together. I love the fact that we're in Tukwila having a live conversation. I love the fact that we can see faces. You know, I love the fact that there's people online and that we're using technology so we can reach a broader audience. But like I said, even people get tired of virtual meetings, right? So they just kind of like blow them off. But all of our attendance in every aspect is down 50%. You know, And so that's pretty significant. We need to get back up to where we were in 2018, 2019, get those numbers back up. Because ours, we depend on your participation. We depend on you telling us what it is that we really need to be doing, because that's what's important to you. And that's where we need to go. Online one-on-one engagements. You know, we've done many engagements, face-to-face, one-on-one. We've set up thousands and thousands of meetings. But with 50% decline in participation, it's very difficult also to do them online. So we've got to keep working at it. But 50% is better than nothing. And so we appreciate the opportunity to do that. When it comes to learning and growth and performance, and this is where Shahzad is going to have to come in, because in partnership with one of our sponsors, the Trio Group, we built what we call the business plan builder, and we have to copyright it, because believe it or not, even as a nonprofit organization, programs that we design, people are replicating it. I call it nonprofit espionage. You know, they participate in our events, and then next thing I know, they're showing up on these other nonprofit organization sites. I'm like, what? You know, oh, I didn't know Stacy was with that organization. Like, oh, okay. I didn't know Angela was an executive at that organization. So this nonprofit espionage does exist. And so for us, it's important that we begin to copyright our materials. And this is one of the ones that we'll copyright. Strategic communications is also a program that we partner with one of our providers. We partner with the University of Washington for the Minority Business Executive Program. We partner with TUC, and these are executive levels, right? So again, we look at our development from multi-tiered perspective. The business plan builder is kind of like, I have an idea, but I don't know how to execute it. And that's what this 15-hour program walks you through. The strategic communications is now another kind of like, now that I'm in business, how do I sell my business effectively? How do I communicate my business effectively? Not only from an initial engagement to a phone call to an email to a real live meeting. The other piece that we do is everything else that we do. So we've got business basics, starting MBEs. We got strategic communications, experience, teeth are already cut. We have other services like building your capability statement, how to market your company. These also are companies that already have a little bit of experience. And then we have the executive program, right? And this is where I look at individuals like Rick Antesana. I look at individuals like Earl Overstreet. And I look at them and I go like, okay, these guys, like, they can teach us something. So we need the academia to kind of take them to the next level. And that's why we're partnered with the University of Washington and TUC, because we understand the spectrum of where our businesses are. And so that's kind of important. And our technical assistance program is a contract that we manage for the city of Seattle. It's coming up for renewal, and Zabir leads that program for us. And you know what? I like to fight. It's coming up for renewal, so we're going to fight, and we're going to win this contract again. And for us, it's a great income, great development, great introduction to the council, great programming, and income for us. It's great. It's great. And I'll tell you, from that perspective, from that program, we provide 22 hours of training to individuals. But once again, where 2 years ago, we would have to we had a 4-to-1 ratio of recruitment. We'd have to touch the 4 WWT guys in order to get 1 guy to participate. Now it's 8-to-1. So now we have to touch 8 people to get 1 recruit. That's how things have changed. So One of the things that we've been listening to, there's 2 slides, so this is a continuation. I couldn't put everything on one slide because it would be very difficult to see, and Carla did a great job of what I call Carlaizing it for me. One of the things that I hear consistently, especially with companies that are really looking to either start up their supplier diversity process, enhance their supplier diversity process, bolster their supplier diversity process. And they said, what do we do? How do we do it? And the how is the toughest piece. So what you see here is you see an abbreviated version of the work that we've designed. Again, once we fine tune it, Mr. Shazad will be copywriting it for us. So, but I'm just going to, and these are just highlights. I have a workbook that accompanies these 2 slides. That in the how, there's 80 line items. Well, to be exact, 76. But 76 line items of what organizations have to do to deliver the how. So say, for example, supplier diversity business case. Well, you have to have an executive summary. You have to understand what the return on investment is going to be. You have to understand the approach. You have to understand the budget. You have to understand, you have to build a business case for people to really begin to understand that they need supplier diversity process. If we look at the commitment plan, it's not like we're committed and then let's launch. You have to be very methodical in step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1 is build, step 2 communicate, step 3 execute. And what are all the key elements that are inside of that? But the important piece, not only the how, but the governance. Because if we as leaders in supplier diversity don't have a way by which we can audit and govern the behaviors, it doesn't matter what we do. So governance is critical in this whole process. That's why it's not just what and how, it's what, how, and govern. And if we do that, we'll see positive results. Now, I'm just going to skip down a little bit. Let me see. CEO adopts supplier diversity policy number 6. The board of directors has to stand behind the CEO. It supports it and commits it. Now, the governing, the CEO has to be willing to say, Mr. D, Mr. Vice President of Western Region, I'm holding you accountable. And if you don't perform, I'm holding you accountable, right? That's what the board of directors, that's what the C-level guys have to identify. Mr. Hakeem comes to me and says, hey, I got an opportunity. And if I, as the chief procurement officer, don't delegate somebody to listen to that opportunity, there's an opportunity there, right? There's something that isn't being governed. So we have to really add governance to the what and the how. CEO direct communication. Nothing is more impactful than the CEO of T-Mobile, the CEO of Selling Construction, talking directly to the audience, talking to the executives, talking to the managers, talking to the line employees, and talking to the suppliers. The message from the CEO sends a resounding message that we're taking a stand and that we're going to diversify our supply chain. And again, it's the organization-wide communication and the public relations group. Because in all of this, you can't leave human relations out. After all, we are people. What will happen when you start governing is that you're going to find the 20% of your population that immediately drinks the Kool-Aid. You're going to find 60% that you have to kind of like add a little more sugar to it, take a little less sugar. You know, it's going to take that education. And then you're going to find that 20% that cause 80% of the problems. And once we identify that 20%, let's hold them accountable. I'm going to tell you guys a true story. The true story, I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. I get a call and I'm accused of being discriminatory because we don't certify women. Okay. We certify women of color? No, that's not good enough. And by the end of the call, I was discriminating, I was a racist, I was everything that I could be called. I said, okay, that's fine. So my relationships was broad and deep. So I level up. I just say, hey, I had this very disturbing conference. And so after we engage in the conversation, I'm told, hold on, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. Okay. I get a call back in 15 minutes and they tell me, Fernando, we support your organization. We're taking some actions. After 30 years of employment, what they found was that that person was racially discriminating for 30 years, but nobody ever said anything. So when we don't say something, we approve it, we accept it, we condone it. We're part of the problem. And, you know, after 30 years of service and 30 years of abusive behavior, and nobody would say anything. So when I say that unless we have governance, unless we have policies, unless we have the CEO behind this, driving and directing, the what and the how are not going to matter. As I look at number 11, audit policies and practices. Every organization has audit policies and practices. I'm saying that we need to do more. I recommend that we do more. And I recommend that we live in the mecca of technology here in Seattle. There's so much technology out there that we can be automating these audit processes. And that's important. Because if we don't, there's a possibility that fair and equitable will not exist. And that center of excellence is important for auditing. And what I call center of excellence is the governance model, right? It's the policies, it's the procedures, it's the practices that everybody has to follow in order to make sure that everything everyone is protected. And lastly, I know that everybody talks about tier 2, and I know it's a challenge because in light of all the technology that exists out there, we don't have an automated way by which we can report tier 2, right? It's all very manual. But if I, as the CEO of an organization, have a supplier and I ask the question, what is your supply chain diversification model? Well, I don't have one. What are your values? Well, my values are we support diversity, we support inclusion. Those are our values. So why are you not doing what we're doing? So we're going to ask you, if our values are aligned, you need to do something that we're doing that we need. So it's that value alignment that will drive the tier 2 performance. We'll leverage technology to get there. And that's an important piece. So, you know, all of this is going to be online, so you'll be able to see all of this. And like I said, once we fine tune all the little details, all the commas and periods and everything, we'll put it out along with the workbook. Because this is important for everybody. And then everybody can expand because it's not one size fits all. So this is, again, leaning into what the customer needs. The other thing that we're putting together is we're putting together Carla's putting together a booklet for us. And in that booklet, we have how to execute your supplier diversity process, right? C-level, executive and management level, employee level. So it's we're kind of like organizing it into 3 chapters. We put a 16-week time frame for each section, but we're going to change it to like 24 to 32 weeks because 16 weeks is intense work. And the CEO cannot spend 16 weeks kind of focused on this. We need to have people doing more work. So as soon as we finish that little project, again, Mr. Shahzad is going to come to the table and copyright it for us, and then we'll put it out. We'll publish it. But it's a chapter. It's a 3-chapter booklet. That's the best way that we figured out we could do it. So that's kind of like, again, helping our customers. And if we as MBEs understand how corporations operate, it positions us better as well. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of like 2021 in a nutshell. I'd like to open it up for, thank you, Ralph. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. Any questions or comments or thoughts? And please, like share your thoughts, share your, let us know what you're thinking. Anybody on the line or in here? And when you, like I said, when you raise your hand, stand up, speak into the microphone so that the camera zooms in on you, right? Otherwise, and if you're in the front, you got to turn towards the camera because otherwise it's just going to see the back of your head. So, questions? Comments? Anybody online? Carla? Okay.
Again, my name is Gino White with Docket Ellis Consulting. My question is, for the supplier diversity work that you're doing and that you will be doing, who do you have doing that work? Do you hire DE&I professionals to help you to put those things together? Is it you and your staff only? Or how are you approaching it?
So it's a combination of many aspects, right? It's us as participants in this space. It's us conversing with other DEI executives, right? It's us conversing with our corporate members. This thing is, even though we've written it, we still have to test it, right? We still have to send it to Angela. We still have to send it to Vanessa, to Stacy, and see what their feedback is. So it's not just like, the council is writing it and no, that doesn't work, So what we have to do is we actually have to complete it, and then we have to test it. We were, the team was laughing at me the other day because we're setting up our new theme for 2022, right? And so we come up with this great theme, and we kind of like come up with, oh, that sounds good, and then I blow it up. I said, okay, let's destroy it. Let's break it apart. Anybody in the room that can destroy it, can challenge it, let's destroy it. We destroyed it for about 30 minutes, and then we put it back together, and it came out nicer. It came out stronger. So, Gino, to your point, whatever we craft, we'll stress test it. And we'll look at it from any perspective that says, like, how can this be broken? Because we want it to withstand the test of time, right? Because remember, our focus is not just you here today. Our focus is you, your employees, your families, 3 generations from now. If we help you today, what impact are we helping you develop so that your great-grandkids are in a better position than they are today? See what I'm saying? So that's why we have to stress test everything that we do. And at the end of the day, they like I said, they were laughing at me. What are you doing? What is this? Like, why are you testing this? But at the end of the day, it worked out way, way better. Rafa.
Ralph Ibarra, Diverse America Network, certified MBE through the Northwest Council, all the way back to the NMSDC National. So Fernando, would you be so kind as to give us a quick overview on what the state of affairs is on the NMSDC and itself, as far as the changes that have occurred? There's a new CEO. There was some consolidation of councils. And I think more importantly, you and I have had this conversation. Would you kindly express the value of being certified with a local council when it comes to being able to access all the opportunities that all the corporate members and entities all across the NMSDC network makes available?
Thank you, Ralph. Yes, and actually I'll ask Angela and Shazad to join me in the answer to your first question, Ralph. So the National Minority Supplier Development Council was established in 1970, so we're going up on 50, so 1973. We were established in 1978 here in the Northwest. We just hired a new president in June, and for the first time in the history of the National Minority Supplier Development Council, we hired an Asian American woman to lead the organization. Never before has this been done. It's only been led by 3 people prior to Ying. I've known Ying for a long time. She comes with a history of supplier diversity because she was a supplier diversity executive at Dell Technologies. Then she went to work for a minority business in San Diego, $500 million technology company in San Diego, and she led their diversity efforts there. But for the first time, we have an Asian American person leading the organization. So that's a big change, right? Because that sends a huge message to the community, right? Because the reality of it is that the NMSDC has always been seen as an African American centric organization. And the real story is that we're not. African American, Latino, Hispanic, Asian American, Native American, Alaska Native. Those are the ethnicities that support, and the NMCC has always supported that. So that's change number 1. Change number 2, in 2013, we went from 36 councils to 23 councils. Understanding that the marketplace, and is there anybody here from Wyoming? Okay, I'm going to say something, but I'm going to disclaim this, okay? There's not much activity in Wyoming. So when we looked at the consolidation, we looked at those pockets and said, like, can we expand a region to cover these regions where really we don't need to have a dedicated council? So we went from 36 to 23. And for us, it was an expansion. We took over we took over Wyoming and Utah. So it was an expansion for us. Utah is a great state for us. We have great participation in Utah. We have great MBEs in Utah. We have great partnership with the Black Chamber in Salt Lake City. So the expansion for us was a really good expansion. That's why we call it Northwest Mountain, because we adopted part of the Rocky Mountains. And that's why we did that. So in 2013, we consolidated to 23. For us, it's been a good consolidation. For other regions, maybe not so good, because some territories that were profitable for them were taken away. For example, I think about the Mountain Plains, the Rocky Mountain, where Dee is also the MBIC chair in Denver. They took New Mexico away from the Colorado Council, and that was a very, very good council for Stan and his team, for Dee and his team. The attention that New Mexico gets right now is probably not as good as it was before. So in some instances, it proved not to be that good. I like what Maria Prince is doing, Ralph, with the Learning and Development Center. She's the Vice President of Learning and Development for the NMCC. She really brings a lot of experience in terms of programming. So it's really become more centric on what the corporations need, become more centric in terms of what the MBEs need. It's not to say that we don't have our challenges, right? One of our biggest challenges as an organization across the board is the value that we bring to our Corporate Plus members. We have to do better at delivering value to our Corporate Plus members. So that's an opportunity for us. The other opportunity is the biggest opportunity really lies in the 23 councils being directly aligned with the NMSDC. Because the 23 councils are the field operations for the NMSDC. There's one person, two people at the NMSDC that have actually worked in the field. So the perspective is a little bit myopic. So that piece is going to be important. And so what we're in the phase of doing right now is really kind of orchestrating our next affiliate agreement so that we sign on as an affiliate of the NMSDC. So that process is in play right now. I don't have a timeline as to when that'll occur. So those are a couple of things, Ralph. So Angela, anything else you'd like? Would you like to add some comments?
Ms. Ying McGuire is the president of NMSDC. And so I've had quite a few opportunities to chat with her, and she's going to be moving the council in some great directions. I think has an open ear to what the councils around the nation are wanting and needing. And that's kind of a breath of fresh air for us to hear that somebody's actually listening to us and wanting to make those changes for the better of the MBE's participation and really pushing opportunities out. So it's moving in a positive direction. So I'm pretty excited.
Excellent. Thank you, Angela. And it's refreshing to hear that. And we had a meeting, Shazad, Angela, and myself. We had a meeting with Ying 2 months ago when she was doing her tour. Shazad, how about you from the MBE perspective?
No, I think I agree with Angela, with Ying taking the helm. What we've seen on the national level, as far as MBIC is concerned, is that they are reaching out. They are trying to listen and trying to accommodate a lot of things that were falling on deaf ears with the past administrations, where promises were being made. They are moving full force ahead and at least trying to provide us resources and trying to fulfill their promises. Now, it's early in the game. It's 6 months, so we've yet to see how things pan out. But obviously, we're in challenging times as well, and that is being factored in. I think one of the biggest positives for the organization is having an Asian American woman take the helm, because that is truly now showing that we are in fact a organization that is representing all minorities and not just one segment, which unfortunately was sort of the perception on the forefront for several years. So we're hopeful, but obviously action speaks louder than words. So and at the national level, we are meeting on a monthly basis and monitoring and kind of raising issues as they come up. So far, we've had positive response from Ying and her team, and hopefully that will continue.
Thank you, Suzanne. So as you see, so there's been new leadership this year at the MBIC. Carlton O'Neill is the new chairperson for the MBIC. Tanya Nixon is the chairperson for the chairpersons committee, and Stacy Key, who's my peer out of Atlanta, she leads the president's committee. So, and they're always working together. So it's a positive thing. Now, to answer your second question, Ralph, about the value of certifying at the local level, really is the fact that you're certified in the Northwest means that you can actually participate across the country. This certification is national in breadth. So Michael, your Macedons, I mean, and we've had these discussions, right? But your Macedons, you can sell to Kroger in Minnesota. I can't remember where they're at. You can sell to Safeway down in California. So it enables you to work across the country and to meet organizations across the country, to meet your peers across the country. So that's one aspect of the value, is that it gives you breadth of where you can participate. The other piece is this, is that the introductions that you make, the networking that you make, is something that if you're not certified, most people don't have access to. When was the last time that you sat in a room where you're actually sitting next to a person that has influence at Selden Construction or at T-Mobile or at Department of Transportation? That relationship building that we spoke to about earlier, this is where you can build it. And a lot of people that think that certification, a lot of people think that certification is a check mark against them, right? Well, I'm certified as a Latino business. Oh, people are going to look at me less because you're certified as a Latino business. Quite the opposite, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone that I've spoken to that has opted to certify after years of not wanting to certify has come back to me. Every one of them has come back to me and said, I should have done this 10 years ago, because the network is extensive. The access is extensive. Now, that doesn't mean that you have access to everybody, right? That doesn't mean that you have access to every opportunity, that you have access to every person. It means that we have to zero in on where the access points are. What is it that your competencies bring that make it interesting for Vanessa at AT&T to want to speak to you? That's where we can support you. So the value is, one, that you have a broad network that you can work with. Two, you have access. And three, you have the opportunity to develop. And if you feel like, I need a better capability statement, we can help that. I need to figure out how to sell better. We can help with that. So the access to the learning and development is pretty significant as well. So those are a couple of key points around value. Ralph, did that answer your question? Thank you. Yes. Please.
Balan, do you want to answer ask your question?
Ms. Melinda.
Am I audible?
Yes, please. And then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, good morning. Great session and great presentation. It was very informative. I could get some good insights on both the functioning as well as what does the team enable here. I just had one query. So we have great sponsors like T-Mobile, AT&T, Alaska Airlines, and others. And we are talking about also the minority and small business development. I was keen to understand as to how can we provide our value proposition to some of these sponsors to be their vendors of choice as a small business. And is there a specific way in which we need to approach? And if there are any contact points whom we can connect with in taking that forward, I would really appreciate any support on that information.
Is it Balan? Balan.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
So Balan, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase your question, right? So as a small business, how do we engage with the corporate members that belong to the organization? Is that
Absolutely.
Okay. I think first of all, Balan, you have to be prepared to engage in a conversation, right? So what is it that you do? And there's 5 key questions that you have to answer, right? When you ask yourself, you have to answer 5 key questions. One is, who am I, right? Who is Balan's organization? 2, what do you do, right? 3, where have you done it? 4, what are the results of what you've done? And 5, how do you project that those results that you got at this other company are going to help you are going to help that corporate member in whoever you're trying to attract, right? So those are 5 key questions that you have to ask yourself, and you have to be prepared to communicate, right? Now, once you get to that level, now we start looking at what we call the competency, right? So 1, do you have the qualifications, right? Simply like, it's pay to play. You have a business license, you know, are you really in business, or are you working out of your pickup truck, right? I mean, this is a legitimate question. The second piece is, what are your capabilities? Once you identify your capabilities, what's your capacity? So if you have the ability to develop technology, and through your resources, you have the capacity to expand and grow it so that you can flex back and forth for the corporation, right?
Yeah.
Then we get to the 5 pieces that I just mentioned, the contracts. Where have you proven that you've done this, right? So your qualifications, capabilities, your capacity, and your contracts. If you come back with those 4 key elements, now what you've established is just established competency. That's where the corporations are going to start looking at you and going like, looks like a good like a good fit in this particular area. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to immediately go in and win the business, but it's going to open the door for relationship building, and it's going to open the door for some possible contracting. One of our MBEs, after I don't know how many years, started designing bathrooms for Boeing. He's an architect, and it took years and years and years for him to build that relationship to where he could then start small with Boeing, and he started building bathrooms for him. How many bathrooms he built, I have no idea, but he started doing business with Boeing. Now, when you have Boeing in your portfolio of clients, that's a big name, right? So again, Balan, that's what I would say would be of a good approach to it, and we're happy to spend some more time with you on that if you'd like.
Absolutely, thank you. And in fact, pretty much you have been kind of on the target with reference to the key areas and preparations that we need to have. So we are actually prepared on that, and I'll be glad to really engage. And we are very clear as a small business, and being in the technology and consulting business, we know that value is what matters more, and that is where we actually score, and I look forward to connect.
Absolutely, thank you.
Earl, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, thanks. First of all, Fernando, congratulations to you and the council for an outstanding year, especially under the circumstances. Well done, especially thanks for your leadership. Looking forward, I know that you've expressed some concerns and some awareness that supplier diversity could be more effective. There are conversations going on within the supplier diversity ecosystem and external to it. But I'd like you to just talk a little bit about specifically looking at next year. What do you think could be better in terms of supplier diversity, specifically in the Northwest, and the council's potential role in that, and how that relates to or could relate to the national in terms of priorities with the new president and CEO?
Thank you, Earl. And I got to tell you guys, I met Earl when I was supplier diversity, vice president of supplier diversity for Washington Mutual, and he schooled me in terms of the needs of MBEs when I was leading supplier diversity for Washington Mutual. And I tell you, those conversations resonated then, and they resonate now. So I really, truly appreciate Earl for all the unselfish work that he does, because he not only works for himself and his company, he works for everybody else in this room and everybody that's on the online. So a couple of things, Earl. I think that going forward, right? So you're absolutely right. So organizations need to anchor themselves in DEI, right? And supplier diversity is only one component of DEI. You've got workforce development, you've got community which I call the marketing aspect of it. And then you've got supply chain diversification, right? So those are the three key anchors for a true DEI model to exist, for something that be founded solidly, right? Workforce, you got to have diversity from the boardroom to the security guard standing in front of, at the front desk in your building. You have to have diversification all the way through. And you have to have not only diversification, but you have to have the authority to make decisions all the way up and down that chain. From a marketing perspective, from a community perspective, community relations perspective, where is an organization philanthropically giving back to the communities from which they're taking profits? Right? Because everybody does business in Seattle, and they're making profit out of these communities, whether you're Latino, white, Hispanic, Black, African, Asian, it doesn't matter. Members are making profits. So where's their philanthropic giving? Is it reflective of who their customer base is? And that's why I say it's marketing and social responsibility. And then lastly, it's supply chain. And that's, are we diversifying our supply chain? I spoke a little bit about governance. One of the reasons governance is so important is because these relationships at the very, very top level can undercut anything that we do at our level. I'll give you an example. State of Washington ran an RFP earlier this year. One of our teams was named one of the winners. Big Fortune 500 company was taken out. What do you think happened next? Governor Inslee, this is Fernando. Everything went kind of like south, right? So governance is really, really important so that we have this out so where Governor Inslee can say like, hey, sorry, Fernando. This is the way we ran it. This is the way it is, fair and equitable. You lost. Better luck next time. But it takes people the courage to do that, to have that conversation, right? But governance is critical to eliminate and avoid some of those conversations, right? So I say that, Earl, because I think that we have to look at supplier diversity as part of an ecosystem of DEI, not just individually, right? The other piece that's important is that if you look at supplier diversity as part of the DEI environment, marketing and human resources get way, way more money than sourcing and procurement. So there's deeper pockets by partnering with human resources and the marketing committee. So that will leverage some strength for our supplier diversity team. So those are a couple of things. The next piece is going forward into 2022. What is it that we need? And Earl, this is exactly why we kind of crafted this document about the how, right? Because what we found over the last couple of years is that everybody jumped onto this bandwagon of we're going to diversify, we're going to be inclusive, we're going to do this. But when they realized that it's much, much harder to do than to say, they realized that they didn't have the how. And that's what we're trying to curb. That's what we're trying to facilitate, Earl, is give them the how of what they have to do so that it makes it easier for them to go along this journey. And if it makes it easier for them, then it's going to open up opportunities for all of us, right? So I think that's the important piece, Earl, is that we have to continue to educate on, one, the business case for supplier diversity, and two, the how and the governance of it. The governance is probably the hardest thing to get buy-in from, because nobody wants to be held accountable. So the governance is going to be critical. So Earl, going forward, that's the piece. But how do we, as a council, how do we benefit from this? Well, there's a couple of things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, because there's a couple of things that we want to do in 2022 that I think are going to lead to that. Because as an organization, as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we're always looking for new revenue streams. And I think this is where the opportunity comes in for us as well, right? So how do we teach people the how? And you know, in my old Xerox days, we used to say, Angela, let me come and consult with you, and if you like what I sell and you buy it, the consulting piece is free, right? It's already baked into the price, you know? All you sales guys know this. It's already baked into the price. But Angela, if you don't buy it, then it's going to be $35,000 for my time and services, right? That's you know, that's the way we do it, right? So so something along that model, Earl, where we can consult but not give away our intellectual properties for free, right? So we have to take advantage of the opportunity that's here and now. And if they decide, like, hey, we're going to support this group over here, they're developing small businesses, great. For example, Brian Surratt, who runs an organization down in the Kent area, he just partnered with Amazon, where they're going to build Black technologists. And they're tying this group of Black technologists to building affordable housing. And they're linking this to capitalization. So Amazon is funding all of this, right? I love it. I love the fact that Amazon is doing something. I love the fact that Brian is leading this opportunity. But if in our conversations, that's the best result that we can get, we support it. So Earl, it doesn't mean that we have to hit gold every time, but it means that we help somebody make a decision. And a decision to go someplace else is better than no decision at all. We consulted with Puget Sound Energy. They're funding another organization. They decided they didn't want to invest money with us. I'm good. But they're investing in small business development. That's how they're investing their money. I'm good. Right? And then lastly, Earl, one thing that we're always trying to do, and believe it or not, well, not believe it or not, but the national office has come to our council many times asking for advice. And it's not because of anything other than the fact that we are kind of forward thinking. We do create new models. We do create new ideas. We do really build new things. And so for them to ask us, how would you decide this? It kind of goes to show that we kind of are forward thinking and leaning into the opportunities, right? Also, so I expect Ying to be more open to feedback. I think that her success is going to be dependent on being open to feedback and really, can you imagine if all of us in this room kind of divvied up and came up with some problem solving? All of us could solve these problems collectively. I could not solve all these problems individually. And I think Ying understands that. I think she understands that I have 23 organizations across the country that can help me solve problems. I have worldwide technology that has done an assessment for us that can help me solve our technology problems. So I think she's open to that, and Angela talked about that. So I think that we see, Earl, at the national level, I think that we see more of a concern for the greater good versus letting the title get to your head. You know? So I hope I answered your questions, Earl.
You did. I would just add, I know that you're a numbers guy. See that from your presentations, and I hope that as we go into the year that there'll be opportunity to develop some goals, some specific goals around accomplishments in those areas that we can all strive toward. And I would expect that especially the Washington Employers for Racial Equity and the data gathering that they're doing will be helpful in terms of supporting some ideas around setting some goals and some objectives to accomplish together. So I look forward to that. I think it'll be an exciting year. So again, thank you for your leadership.
Hey, Earl, I have a meeting with Philip and Mamie on Monday because I'm kind of like working on something that I want to, and then Philip and I started working together when he first came on board. So I've got some opportunities around the what, the how, and the governance that I want to see if he's willing to kind of like help us build out, and that he can, again, this is a strategic partnership, right?
Yeah.
Racial equity for everyone. This is a strategic partnership that I don't mind sharing this stuff with, right? Because they have access to corporations that we don't have access to. So we can influence them much better for everybody else. To me, it doesn't matter that it's Philip and racial equity for everyone or us. So long as you guys get the business, that's what matters. So yeah, so I'm meeting with Philip on Monday, Earl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jacob, did you want to ask your question?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Hey, Fernando.
Hey, Jacob, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just curious if the council, whether regional or national, has any type of relationships with recruiting service providers. Particularly like in STEM, we've been seeing a lot of challenges, labor shortages and whatnot. So I was just curious if there's any support or maybe pairing up with other MBEs who kind of specialize in that.
So when, Jacob, I just want to clarify. So you're looking for employment agencies to support?
No, so more so on the applications like tools. Think processes, things like that. So like LinkedIn has pretty expansive recruiting applications that help. We have internal recruiting, but more so on the tools, applications, things along those lines.
You know, Jacob, I'm not sure I could probably answer that question because I think I'm a little bit hazy on the real ask, and I'd hate to give you an answer without really kind of digging a little bit deeper into it. So if you're looking for applications, that's one piece. And if you're looking for applications specific to STEM, that's another piece, right? So I hope you don't mind if we put this question off and maybe we can have a conversation on the phone or something, Jacob, and then we can kind of, then we'll put out the notes to everybody so everybody kind of knows what we discussed.
Yes, no problem.
Are we set? Any other questions, Rick? Face the camera and don't freak out when it zooms in on you.
Will do. Fernando, I just want to say thank you to you and your team for your stewardship throughout this difficult time period that we all went through. I know it must have been difficult, obviously, for to kind of maintain the presence, everything that you put together, talking about marketing and all that. So congrats for that. I'm grateful there. But, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun. I'm really curious about next year and events. It's great to be here in the room with everybody in person for those that could make it. It's handled in a really responsible way from a socially distant perspective. And I think it's awesome. Looking forward to more things like this. Hoping you might be able to speak to that on both a regional level and then, of course, on a national level. What do they have planned?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to kind of like, I think you lead us right into the next slide, Rick. Now, I will say this. I was out of office for about 3 weeks, and I'm not making excuses. So I didn't have the time that I normally have to prepare for something like this. Normally I would already have 2022 budget already lined up. I'd present to the board this month, get approval, or I tweak it. So I'm a little bit behind. So I'm a couple weeks behind. So I'll have everything completely done in the next couple weeks. But That being said, to Earl's point earlier about metrics as well, right? So in 2022, we're still going to focus on our 5 key measures, which is financial, operational, marketing, customer service, learning and development. That's foundational for us. That's kind of that's how we survive. That's how we make sure that whenever we're out here in the community, that people know that we're solid, right? So people have asked me like, hey, when do you need your money? Like, we're good. We're good stewards. We know how to run a business. We're good stewards. We're good. I'll invoice you when it's time to invoice you. So we don't rush anything. So from a financial perspective, we're very, very solvent and we're very whole, right? And it's not because of just it happens. It's because we're very, very aware, and we report to the board of directors every month in terms of where we are financially. So this is not something that we just report once a year or quarterly or anything like that. We know where we're at every single month. So I'll put out the budget, but I can tell you that based on this year's budget, which we will plan, because 2022 can be based on 2021, 2019, and 2018. Well, we're going to take 2020 out. And with that particular piece, Rick, what we're anticipating is probably an 8 to 10% increase in revenue. I always strive to keep expenses flat, but understanding that inflation has hit at about 6%, I know that expenses are going to go up. So it'll have to reflect that as well, right? So I would say that within the next couple of weeks, our budget will be truly reflective of what the market is doing right now and where we're at. Now, that's one piece. The other piece is that new services, right? And I told Earl that we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, right? The federal government is now releasing like billions of dollars for infrastructure build. I called Earl at the Department of Transportation. I said, Earl, I said, our MBEs need a piece of that billion. And I said, so how do we do this? So what we're putting together, and this is the first time we announced this. What we're putting together is we're putting together a consulting group, and the team knows this. We're putting together a consulting team where we actually begin to consult with these big companies that do civil work for the state, so that we can be their supplier diversity organization. There's individuals that are in this business that are making $400,000 to $500,000 a year individually. So I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, so from a council's perspective, if we have 3 to 4 to 5 consultants that we tie into 3 to 4 to 5 major construction companies, and each one generates $400,000 to $500,000, that's a lot of money for the council, right? That's a lot of growth for us. Inside of that, if we're inside and we bring all of our heavy equipment guys into the picture, if we bring our architects into the picture, and then if we bring our translation services, because we have to put all of this in multiple languages, that's where we can influence from the inside, right? So that's kind of like what we're thinking in terms of consulting, Rick, right? But we're talking about the state is receiving billions of dollars and they're going to have to spend. If it's 1.5 billion, they got to spend like 150 million. We need a piece of that 150 million. Everybody in this room needs a piece of that 150 million. So that's one piece. From a programming, we're going to continue to drive what we talked about right now. Our booklet, our how and govern. We're going to continue to drive that type of piece, but we're also going to take our positions in the racial and social justice arena. So we're not going to back down from that. So from the programming, what else can we do to enhance the capabilities of our MBEs? Not only the MBEs, but what else can we do to enhance the capabilities of our corporate members, right? I say capabilities, but really, I don't want to say competency because I don't want to insult anybody, right? But how do we improve the competency of our supplier diversity team over here? And how do we match it with the competency of our MBEs? So everybody needs education, right? Because none of us know everything. So we're focused on our programming, just like we were this year. Included in that program is going to be UW, TUC, our technical assistance services, our typical programming that we do, strategic communication, business plan builder. That's all typical. But what else do we need? And that's why I say we like going to where customers are, which is you, right? And understanding that. Well, that's why these executive summits are so important. That's why this white paper that we're going to write is so important, because that's direct feedback from our community, right? Corporations and MBEs. So that's the important piece. Now, I will share a couple of things that I know are happening in the marketplace, and we talked about, and I'll talk about subject matter experts in DEI. One of the things that's happening is when social and racial injustice hit us 2 years ago, all of a sudden, everybody was a subject matter expert in DEI. Everybody was. Everybody hung their shingle out like, hey, I'm Latino, I know it, right? The problem is that they call us and they say, Angela calls us and say, Fernando, I need a subject matter expert in DEI. I said, Gino's the guy. And then Angela and Gino connect, and Angela calls me, Fernando, like, Gino's not the guy, right? No disrespect, Gino. I don't, no. But what I'm saying is that everybody that said that they were experts, our members are finding out that they're not. And so it kind of puts us back, right? So we have to partner. We have some great subject matter experts, some out of town, some in Bellevue, some here in Seattle. Professor at every college, right? These are experts in this field. And so we have to partner with them and make sure that we're participating in referrals and that we're making some of that referral fee. I mean, it's that 10% referral fee. If you have a $500,000 contract with a corporation, you wouldn't have had it if it weren't for us. It's our network. So the expertise that we bring, and there's nobody, I'll tell you right now, there's nobody in our region that knows supplier diversity better than we do. And I'll say that as long as no organization in this area knows supplier diversity better than we do. We're the subject matters in that expert. Do we know workforce diversity? We understand it. Do we know philanthropic? We understand it, but we're not experts in it. So we have to fit within our needs. So if we tie in with our strategic partners and we develop that foundation and we deliver that foundation, that's where we can do well. So that's one of the things that we're also going to be doing in 2022, Rick. But that's a trend right now, right? The other trend that I see right now is that people are not looking for 6-month, 12-month outlooks. Our corporations need us now, 30, 60, 90 days, because they operate on a quarterly basis, right? So we as MBEs, we as an organization have to be ready to deal with whatever happens within the next 30, 60, 90 days. We have to be in front of that in order for us to stay in front of them so that they can deliver on their quarter ends. So as a supplier diversity organization, we have to be, to us, that's real time. 90 days is real time. I put 120, but it's really 90 days. So we have to be able to deliver within 90 days because they're moving fast. And we just can't say, well, like, I'll get it to you like next June. The train is left. So speed right now is important. Expertise is important. And those are two things that I see in the marketplace right now where there's Um, I- there's not enough intellectual knowledge in that space. You know what I mean? So we need more of that. So those are a couple of trends that I see, Rick. So, and we'll be applying metrics to all of these numbers. To Earl's point, we'll let everybody know what our forecast is for 2022. We'll let everybody know. Right now, we've already exceeded. We wanted 350 MBEs by year end. We've got like 363, Huda? 375. Got it. Even that was from last week, right? So, so we wanted 50 corporations. Hey, we only recruited 3 new members, right? That means we still have to get to that 50, because ultimately I want to get to 100. This year we will launch. I was supposed to launch a capital campaign in 2020, because what we want to do is we want to buy our own building. We buy our own building, then we've got an organization that's sustainable for a long, long time, because now we have assets that we can liquidate at any moment in time. Like I said, we're sound, but we need to buy a building. Now, here's the thing. Buy a building, we lease space, we build an executive briefing center inside of that. Selling wants to bring some high value guys into Seattle. There's a briefing center. Oh, and by the way, it costs $5,000 a day. You know, right? So we're thinking about all of these things. I got to tell you, I've been to WWT's briefing center. Yeah, no way will we get to that size, right? But I tell you, it's a beautiful site. I've been to Palo Alto, been to Wilsonville, I've been to Rochester. Those briefing centers sell services, and that's, if we can do that, have a nice briefing center where we can host like 15 executives from Starbucks, 15 executives from AT&T, 15 executives from T-Mobile. Or, Rick, you want to rent and sell your dynamic language services, or David wants to sell their services. $5,000, baby, it's yours. Right? That's a revenue generator for us. Sales position for you. Everybody wins. I'm sorry? Yep. So that's kind of like what we're looking at for 2022, you guys. I know that that's a lot, and I will apologize for not having metrics attached to that right now, but you will know where we're at. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open it up for Q&A, and let's see, any other questions? Michael, do you have anything for us? There you go. Like, okay, Michael, stand up. Show everybody what you got.
Love being on stage. Yeah, sorry I was late. We were just making some custom printed macarons for the event today. So hope you guys enjoy.
You guys, and he sells, huh? So he's taking orders for Christmas while he's here. So if you want to send some Christmas presents, please do. Javier in Utah, he manufactures craft Mexican beer. Yeah. You know, yes, sir. He was supposed to be here, right? And so Javier, you're on the hook, huh? And I'm there in spirit. I'm there in spirit. I asked Kuda, is he bringing a suitcase of beer? You know, so sorry you're not here, Javier.
No problem. You'll be getting 2 cases for Christmas instead of the 1, okay?
Excellent. I think I need 3 because I think there's like 36 people in here, Javier. You know,
let's make it 4.
Okay.
Gracias.
Any other questions? Any comments from anyone?
Thank you. Fernando, I think considering what you're saying and what you like, you're questioning, like, this is the heavy equipment guy, you know. I think for myself, for my company, we need to have you a better look at what we do. because it's a niche, and it's not like applicable to all the country. It's like we are like a Ford distributor. We don't make the car, we don't make the machines, you know.
Right.
We sell them, and we have a percentage, you know, of the profits, but we service them. I mean, like that's why we say we're like a Ford dealer or a Chevy dealer. You buy the car, you get the car, and you get the service that goes with the car. And but it's very difficult to promote our business because it's such a niche that we have. And not everybody, if you talk about machine tools, people say, what is that? So I would like to invite you to our small office. We don't have that big room, but it would be nice for somebody from your company, you know.
Yeah, we'll come out to see.
And take a look at what we do so that you have a better understanding. That way you can promote us better. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, so, you know, our focus really is to understand what everybody does, and having that, and it doesn't mean just me, right? Everybody on the team, because the more we know about your organization, the more we know what you do, the better it is that we're able to promote you. Now, I will tell you that the majority of the time, these promotion opportunities come in the form of a conversation, because unless somebody has something specific, they'll call us. But the majority of the time, I'm having a conversation with Vanessa or with somebody else, and they talk about something, and then we get into we uncover and we discover opportunities. You know, so it's important for us to know what you do and how you do it. So again, all right. Any other questions?
Biko, are you ready?
Yes, it's less of a question and more of a call for help and a call for thought partnership. Here at the City of Portland, you know, we have a 9-figure segment of spend in goods and services. And let's just, for the audience, say anything non-construction, that we are not doing a good job of partnering with small businesses of color to tap into that 9 figures of spend. We're talking about just in time, anything from a walkie-talkie to anything from a professional consulting. These are the items that would typically be sourced from Amazon's large businesses. We really need to bolster the bench of minority partners that can tap into that significant portion of spend. And we really want to advocate for those who are ready to perform there. And it is going to be more of us characterizing what those opportunities are for MSDC, so we can have a meaningful partnership there. But I just wanted to make that comment. Goods and services is going to be a strategic emphasis for us here at the City of Portland. It's a significant opportunity for those small businesses in our region, and we hope to get more time on your schedule to talk about how we can be impactful there.
Biko, you're with the City of Portland?
I am. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer at the City of Portland.
Excellent. Yeah, Biko, I'd love to have a conversation with you, kind of help you understand how we operate, and so that we can understand how you operate and help you identify those opportunities. Love to do it. Love to do it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we're like 10 minutes ahead of time. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to all of you that are online. Thank you to all of you that came here and to share your time with us. It's been truly a pleasure seeing everybody face to face, and it's been truly a pleasure working with everybody. So I want to say, Herman, you got something you want to show everybody? You want to do some Christmas? Oh, thank you, Herman. So again, here's one of our confectioners, Herman Lanier, sells peanut brittle. Best peanut brittle you can buy anywhere in the country, you know, just like the best macarons you can buy anywhere in the country are right here. Okay, so they're taking Christmas orders. Oh, by the way, Hakeem can help you package as well. So excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a safe, happy holiday. Stay safe. protect yourselves against the Omicron, you know, and so just have a great finish of 2021. Okay, so thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you all.